astonishing discovery of the Mount Owen claw of the moa bird of New Zealand. It was so well preserved, it appeared to have come from something that had only died very recently. As you can see, the skin is still on it, the bones and the nails still intact. And nearly 3 decades ago, a team of archaeologists were carrying out an expedition inside a large cave on a system on Mount Owen in New Zealand. That's when they stumbled across this frightening, unusual object. With little visibility in the dark cave, they wondered whether their eyes were deceiving them. They couldn't fathom what lay before them. An enormous dinosaur-like claw. It was still intact with the flesh and scaly skin, and the claw was so well preserved that it appeared to have come from something that only died very recently. The archaeological team eagerly retrieved the claw, took it for analysis, and the results were astonishing. The mysterious claw was found to be 3,300 years old, mummified remains of an Upland Mower. It was a large prehistoric bird that had disappeared from extinction centuries earlier. The Upland Mower, or a scientific name Megalopteryx didinus, was a species of moa bird endemic to New Zealand, and the DNA analysis published in the Proceedings of National Academy of Science suggests that the first moa appeared about 18.5 million years ago, and there were at least 10 species, but they were wiped from existence in the most rapid human-facilitated megafauna extinction documented to date. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. And this is an illustration of the moa and the footprints of the moa in the mud of New Zealand, as we can see. Now, with some subspecies of moa reaching over 10 feet in height, the moa was once the largest species of bird on the planet, but the Upland Mower, one of the smallest of the moa species, stood no more than 4.2 feet. It had feathers covering its whole body, except the beak and soles of its feet, and it had no wings or tail. As its name implies, the Upland Mower lived in the higher, cooler parts of the country. It looks a little bit like an ostrich, but it, as we said, has no tail and no wings. Very strange, isn't it? Now, the discovery of the moa. The first discovery of moa occurred in 1839 when John W. Harris, a flax trader and natural history enthusiast, was given an unusual fossil bone by a member of an indigenous Maori tribe who said he had found it in a riverbank. The bone was sent to Sir Richard Owen, who was working at the Thanturian Museum at the Royal College of Surgeons in London. Owen was puzzled by the bone for 4 years. It did not fit with any other bone he had come across. And eventually Owens came to the conclusion that the bone belonged to a completely unknown giant bird. The scientific community ridiculed Owen's theory, but he was later proven correct with the discoveries of numerous bone species, which allowed for the complete reconstruction of a moa skeleton. And we have him proudly standing next to it right here, as we can see. That is Owens there. So Richard Owen standing next to the moa skeleton and holding the first bone fragment belonging to a moa ever found. Now, since the first discovery of moa bones, 1,000 more have been found, along with some remarkable mummified remains, such as the frightening-looking Mount Owen claw. Some of these samples still exhibit soft tissue with muscle and skin and even feathers. Most of the fossilized remains have been found in dunes, swamps, and caves, where birds may have entered to nest or to escape bad weather, preserved through desiccation when the bird died in a naturally dry site. For example, a cave with a constant dry breeze blowing through it. That would cause the mummification. Now, the rise and fall of the moa. When Polynesians first migrated to New Zealand in the middle of the 13th century, the moa population was flourishing. They were the dominant herbivores in New Zealand's forest, shrubland, subalpine ecosystems for thousands of years, and had only one predator, the Haast's eagle. But when the first humans arrived in New Zealand, the moa rapidly became endangered due to overhunting of it and habitat destruction. As they reached maturity so slowly, they would not have been able to reproduce quickly enough to maintain their populations, leaving them vulnerable to extinction. This is what the Natural History Museum of London writes, saying all moas were extinct by the time Europeans arrived in New Zealand in the 1760s. The Haast's eagle, which relied on the moa for food, died out soon after. Now, will there be a revival of the moa bird? The moa has frequently been mentioned as a candidate for revival through cloning, since numerous well-preserved remains exist from which DNA could be extracted. Also, since it only became extinct several centuries ago, many of the plants that made up the moa's food supply would still be in existence in New Zealand, so they could feed on this, of course. Japanese geneticist Anko Yasuyuki Shirota has already carried out preliminary work towards these ends by extracting DNA from moa remains, which he plans to introduce into chicken embryos. Interest in the ancient bird's resurrection gained further support in the middle of the year when Trevor Mallard, a member of the Parliament in New Zealand, suggested that reviving the moa over the next 50 years was a viable idea. This was from Epoch Times, given here under Creative Commons on Collective Spark by April Holloway from the Epoch Times. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support.